The spacecraft Pioneer glides silently through the void, its destination, Titan, Saturn's enigmatic moon. Aboard are Captain Helena Miles, a seasoned astronaut known for her unshakable calm, Dr. Leo Zhang, a scientist with a skeptical mind and a passion for extraterrestrial biology, and engineer Maya Santos, a brilliant technologist with a knack for solving unsolvable problems. Each member of this diverse crew carries the weight of humanity's quest for knowledge beyond the stars. Captain Miles stood in the command module, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays showing Titan's swirling atmosphere. All systems check. Zhang, Santos, prepare for entry, she commanded with a calm certainty. Dr. Leo Zhang adjusted his glasses, peering at the data on his screen. Atmospheric composition is within expected parameters, Captain. Ready for descent. Engineer Mia Santos, her hands flying over her console, responded without looking up. Thrusters and landing gear are green. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The crew's dynamic was a blend of professionalism and camaraderie, forged during the months of training and the long journey through space. As they approached Titan, each member knew their role and the part they played in this historic mission. Remember, everyone, what we do in the next few hours could change humanity's understanding of the universe. Let's make sure we change it for the better, Captain Miles said, a hint of excitement in her voice. The crew members exchanged determined nods. Dr. Zhang, usually reserved, allowed himself a small smile, while Mia's eyes sparkled with anticipation. The final descent was not just a procedure, it was the culmination of their life's work. As the Pioneer neared Titan, the vastness of space seemed to converge on this one moon. A beacon in the dark expanse, the spacecraft had traveled millions of miles, a tiny speck cruising through the cosmos, propelled by human ingenuity and the thirst for discovery. Engaging autopilot for final approach sequence, Captain Miles announced, her fingers deftly moving across the control panel. The ship hummed softly, responding to her commands as they entered the more challenging phase of the mission. Outside, the stars were brilliant against the black canvas of space, but all eyes were on Titan, growing larger and more detailed in their viewports. Its thick atmosphere, composed of nitrogen with hints of methane, created an orange haze, a mysterious veil that had hidden its secrets for eons. Visuals coming up on screen now, Mia said, adjusting the feed from the external cameras. The surface of Titan loomed before them, a landscape scarred by rivers and lakes of liquid methane, ethereal and otherworldly. Dr. Zhang, who had spent years studying the possibilities of life in extreme environments, looked on with a mix of awe and scientific curiosity. Imagine the stories this place could tell, he mused, aloud, his voice a mix of wonder and resolve. Let's hope we can read them correctly, Captain Miles replied, her focus unyielding. She checked the telemetry data streaming in, ensuring that every system was performing as expected as they penetrated the upper layers of the atmosphere. The descent module shuddered slightly, a normal occurrence as they encountered the upper atmospheric winds of Titan. Stabilizers holding steady, Mia reported, monitoring the status indicators that flickered with new data. Prepare for turbulence, Captain Miles instructed, her voice steady despite the growing intensity outside. The spacecraft vibrated more aggressively, a silent testament to the alien storm they were descending through. Through the buffeting winds and swirling gases, the Pioneer continued its descent, a testament to the precision of its construction and the skill of its crew. Each member was acutely aware that every second brought them closer to the surface of Titan, closer to answering questions that had puzzled scientists for decades. As they finally broke through the lower atmosphere, the surface details of Titan came into sharper focus. Landing site in sight, Captain Miles announced, pointing to a flat expanse near a large methane lake, their designated landing zone. The final moments before touchdown were tense, each crew member mentally rehearsing their tasks post-landing. Landing gear deployed, Mia confirmed, her voice a mix of tension and excitement. With a gentle jolt, the Pioneer touched down on Titan's surface. "We have landed on Titan," Captain Miles declared, a historic statement that marked a new chapter in human exploration. The crew cheered, a brief celebration before the real work began. The crew sets up a base camp near the landing site, a temporary home on this distant moon. Early explorations are cautious. The alien environment is both fascinating and foreboding. Dr. Zhang collects samples of the icy soil and thin methane lakes, while Engineer Santos deploys a series of sensors to monitor environmental conditions. It's during one of these explorations that they stumble upon the first sign of the ancient civilization, hieroglyph-like symbols, etched into the towering rock formations that dot Titan's landscape. The symbols are unlike anything seen before, a language lost to time. The discovery sends a ripple of excitement through the crew. Dr. Zhang, initially skeptical of finding evidence of life, now pores over the symbols with a newfound fervor. Engineer Santos, meanwhile, sets up imaging equipment to capture every detail of the mysterious glyphs. "Helena, look at this!" Dr. Zhang called over the radio, his voice crackling with static and excitement. Captain Miles hurried over, her steps kicking up small clouds of icy dust. "These markings, they're not random. They're too systematic, too intentional," Dr. Zhang explained. Mia joined them, her eyes wide behind her visor. "It looks like writing, or maybe some kind of artistic expression? Either way, it suggests intelligence," Captain Miles mused, her mind racing with the implications. Intelligent life here on Titan. The crew spent hours documenting the site, taking photographs and making casts of the inscriptions. As the Titanian day ended, they returned to the Pioneer, their minds abuzz with theories and questions. What were these beings like? What did they know? And where did they go? Dr. Zhang pondered aloud as they removed their spacesuits. "We'll find the answers, Leo. We have to," Captain Miles replied, determination in her voice. As they settled in for the night, the icy winds of Titan howled outside their temporary shelter, a haunting reminder of the moon's mysterious past. The crew of the Pioneer has taken the first steps into a larger world, a world that promises not only answers to long-held questions, but also questions no one has yet thought to ask. The shadows of Titan beckon, hiding secrets that are as ancient as the solar system itself. After establishing their base camp on the icy plains near the equator of Titan, the crew of the Pioneer spent several days adjusting to the alien environment. The camp, a cluster of high-tech modules interconnected by sealed walkways, became a hub of activity as the crew prepared for extensive exploration missions. Captain Helena Miles convened a meeting in the main module, the walls lined with monitors displaying data streams and exterior views of the stark Titan landscape. "Team, we've made history by just being here, but our real work starts now. We need to understand this environment and any signs of past or present life," she stated, her voice firm and inspiring. Dr. Leo Zhang, equipped with his portable analysis gear, was eager to delve deeper into the mysteries of Titan. The initial samples from the surface have shown complex organic molecules. It's a promising sign that life could have existed here, or may still exist in some form, he reported, his eyes alive with the thrill of discovery. Engineer Maya Santos had been working on setting up the remote sensing drones. "I've programmed the drones to scan the surrounding area. They'll map the terrain and alert us to any anomalies. It should give us a good lay of the land," she explained, her hands deftly moving across her tablet to initiate the first drone launch. As the drones buzzed away into the dim sunlight, filtered through Titan's thick atmosphere, the crew watched the live feeds on their monitors. The alien landscape unfolded before them, a tapestry of dark dunes and bright ice, etched with the flow of liquid methane rivers. It was during one of these drone missions that the first anomaly was detected. A series of irregular markings on a rock formation, not far from their base camp, caught Mia's attention. "Helena, Leo, you need to see this," she called out, zooming in on the image. The crew gathered around the monitor, observing the hieroglyph-like symbols with a mix of awe and curiosity. These markings could be natural, but their arrangement looks too deliberate, Dr. Zhang observed, his scientific mind racing through possibilities. Captain Miles decided they needed to investigate the site immediately. "Prepare for a field trip. We're going to take a closer look at these symbols. It could be a significant discovery," she declared. Equipped with their protective suits and gear, the trio ventured out onto the surface of Titan, the crunch of icy sand under their boots punctuating the silent world. Reaching the site, they found that the symbols were more intricate up close, suggesting intentional design. Dr. Zhang carefully documented the symbols, taking high-resolution images and samples of the surrounding material. These could be a form of writing or symbols used for communication. "We need to analyze these thoroughly back at the lab," he suggested, his mind already formulating theories. This discovery marked a pivotal moment in their mission. It was not just about exploration anymore. It was about uncovering the story of Titan, a moon that might once have harbored life, or still did, hidden beneath its icy crust and shrouded in mystery. The analysis of these symbols would soon lead them deeper into the shadows of Titan, towards truths, perhaps, as old as the solar system itself. Back at the base camp on Titan's icy surface, the crew of the Pioneer gathered in the central module, now repurposed as a makeshift analysis center. The walls, once bare, were adorned with enlarged prints of the hieroglyph-like symbols captured during their initial exploration. The symbols, illuminated by the module's overhead lights, cast an eerie glow, hinting at the depth of the mystery surrounding them. Dr. Leo Zhang, surrounded by digital tablets and scattered papers, directed the team's attention to a specific sequence of symbols. "These patterns here," he began, his voice echoing slightly in the confined space. "They're too consistent to be arbitrary. We might be looking at a numerical system, or perhaps a calendar. It's a deliberate form of communication." Captain Helena Miles, leaning in closer to examine the highlighted symbols, pondered their significance. "Could these be a warning of some sort?" she asked, the weight of their potential discovery pressing on her. "It's entirely possible," Dr. Zhang replied, his gaze locked on the intricate designs. "The arrangement suggests a narrative. Notice how these symbols seem to cluster around representations of Titan, and these others could depict a star or an explosive event." Engineer Mia Santos, who had been meticulously documenting the symbols' dimensions, joined the conversation with a speculative tone. "Did the creators of these symbols possess knowledge about Titan that has eluded us? Insights into the moon itself?" As the team delved deeper into the analysis, the symbols began to weave a narrative of an advanced civilization, one that was not only technologically proficient, but also deeply attuned to its environment and the cosmos. The symbols hinted at a profound understanding of astronomical phenomena and their potential impact on Titan. Dr. Zhang, stepping back to view the symbols from a different angle, shared a realization. They intended for this message to endure, to ensure that future discoverers would grasp the gravity of their situation. The team worked tirelessly into the Titan night, cross-referencing the symbols with known astronomical data and theoretical models of cosmic events. A disturbing hypothesis emerged. The symbols appeared to chronicle a catastrophic celestial event, one that might have precipitated the civilization's demise. Mia, reviewing the assembled data, voiced a theory. Could we be looking at a record of a supernova? Or perhaps a significant gravitational anomaly? Dr. Zhang, maintaining a composed demeanor amidst the unfolding mystery, acknowledged the need for further data. To confirm any theory, we'll need more evidence. However, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. They were issuing a warning, intended for anyone who could decipher these symbols. This revelation, uncovered within the confines of their base camp, cast the mission in a new light. The symbols were not merely relics of the past, but a message spanning time, possibly a dire warning from a civilization that once thrived on this distant moon. The team felt a renewed sense of purpose, aware that their exploration had evolved into an interpretation of a critical message meant to traverse the ages. The next day, as the crew sets out to further explore the area around the symbol site, strange occurrences begin to plague the Pioneer. Instruments flicker without reason, and navigation systems briefly show impossible readings. "Is anyone else seeing this?" Captain Miles calls out as the static fills the communication lines. "I see it too," Mia responds, tapping vigorously at her console, trying to reset the systems. "It's like something's interfering with our equipment." As they discuss the malfunctions, Dr. Zhang experiences a bizarre vision. The symbols they had been studying appear vividly before him, not on any screen, but floating in the air, shimmering with an ethereal light. "Am I the only one seeing this?" he whispers, reaching out to touch the glowing glyphs. Before anyone can respond, a wave of distortion sweeps through the cabin, bending the light and warping the very space around them. The crew stumbles, trying to maintain their balance as the world seems to twist and turn. "What's happening?" Mia shouts, gripping onto a nearby rail. "It's got to be that dark force the symbols warned about," Dr. Zhang says, his voice tinged with fear and awe. The phenomenon lasts only a few moments, but it leaves the crew shaken. They regroup, trying to make sense of what just happened. "We need to be careful," Captain Miles decides. "Whatever that was, it's linked to the symbols and possibly to the fate of the civilization here." Determined to find answers, the crew ventures further into the terrain, where they discover an entrance to an underground structure. It's hidden beneath a mound of dark, glass-like material that Mia identifies as a possible byproduct of intense heat or energy. "This could be it," Mia says, her voice echoing in the hollow space as they descend. The source of the dark force. Inside, they find a chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing conduits. The technology is unlike anything they've ever seen, clearly designed to manipulate gravitational forces on a massive scale. Could this be what caused the catastrophic event? Dr. Zhang ponders, examining a console that hums with latent power. "It's possible," Captain Miles replies. "If they lost control of this technology, it could have torn the fabric of space-time itself." As they explore the alien technology, the crew begins to piece together how it might work. It seems designed to create and manipulate gravitational waves, potentially as a power source, or as a weapon. "We need to understand this technology," Mia insists. "It could be incredibly dangerous, but it could also be the key to preventing another catastrophe." The crew sets up sensors and begins experiments to probe the functions of the alien machinery, treading carefully to avoid triggering another event. As they work, the reality of their situation settles in. They are not just explorers, but also guardians of a powerful and dangerous secret hidden in the shadows of Titan. Deep within the underground structure they had discovered beneath Titan's rugged terrain, Dr. Liu Zheng and his team were surrounded by the remnants of a civilization that had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The chamber, filled with alien machinery and glowing conduits, provided a new context for the symbols they had been studying. "Look at this section," Dr. Zheng pointed out to Captain Helena Miles, who had been intently observing the translation efforts. The walls of the underground chamber were lined with the same cryptic symbols they had found on the surface. These symbols here seem to represent their manipulation of what could be space-time itself. It's as if they had technology that could bend the fabric of reality. Helena leaned in, her eyes tracing the lines of glowing symbols. Could their disappearance be linked to this technology? Perhaps they caused a cataclysmic event? It's more than possible, Dr. Zhang replied, his voice echoing slightly in the vast underground space. The more we uncover, the more it appears that their advanced technology was both their zenith and their undoing. Engineer Mia Santos, who had been examining the alien machinery, joined the discussion, her expression grave. If they triggered something catastrophic enough to erase themselves from existence, what does that mean for us? This technology is still here, and from what we've seen, it's far from dormant. The team pondered the implications as they stood among the technological relics of a bygone era. The symbols told a story of a civilization that had reached for the cosmos, only to falter and fall because of their own inventions. It was a sobering reminder of the dangers of unchecked technological advancement. As the translations progressed, the narrative became clearer. The civilization had attempted to harness the energies of space-time, possibly as a power source or a means of achieving something beyond current human comprehension. However, their manipulation had unintended consequences, leading to instability and, ultimately, their disappearance. This could be a warning, Dr. Zhang mused, stepping back from a console that still hummed with latent energy. A warning that some forces are too powerful and unpredictable to be harnessed safely. Helena nodded, her mind racing with the weight of their discovery. We need to understand exactly what they did and how they tried to control it. It might be the key to preventing the same fate from happening to us. The team agreed to delve deeper into the remaining symbols, hoping to find more answers about the ancient technology and its dangers. As they worked, the sense of urgency grew. They were piecing together a cosmic puzzle that spanned millennia. And Titan was not just a moon, but a silent witness to a forgotten catastrophe. Their mission had evolved from exploration to a critical investigation into the echoes of a lost civilization, whose advanced knowledge had both elevated and doomed them. As the crew uncovered more about the civilization's fate, the dark force that had begun to manifest around them grew increasingly aggressive. Instruments began to malfunction more frequently, and eerie, unexplained phenomena became common. One night, as Mia was calibrating a sensor near the site where they had found the symbols, she felt a chilling presence. The air around her grew inexplicably cold, and her equipment flickered under an unseen influence. "Zhang, do you read me?" Mia's voice crackled over the radio, tinged with panic. "Something's happening out here. The equipment's going haywire, and there's a kind of darkness closing in." Back at the base camp, Dr. Zhang and Helena exchanged worried glances. "Hang tight, Mia. We're on our way," Helena responded, grabbing her gear. As they approached Mia's location, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low hum filled the air, vibrating through their bones. The atmosphere was charged with a palpable tension, as if Titan itself was reacting to their discoveries. When they found Mia, she was staring transfixed at a swirling vortex of shadows that had formed a few meters from her position. The dark force seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, reacting to their presence. "We need to get back to the lab," Helena said firmly, pulling Mia away from the mesmerizing shadows. "This is getting too dangerous. We're not equipped to handle this kind of phenomenon." Back at the lab, the crew convened an emergency meeting. "This dark force, whatever it is, it's responding to our interference," Dr. Zhang theorized. "It's as if our probing into the past is triggering a defense mechanism, or perhaps exacerbating the instability left by the ancient technology." The incidents escalated, with visions of the past civilization flashing before their eyes, spectral figures appearing and disappearing, and an overwhelming sense of dread that hung over the camp. The crew felt their mental and physical health being taxed as the atmosphere on Titan grew increasingly oppressive. Determined to find a solution, the crew analyzed the data they had gathered about the ancient technology and the dark force. It became clear that the instability they were experiencing was linked to a space-time rift that the previous inhabitants had inadvertently created. "We need to find a way to stabilize or close this rift," Mia proposed during their strategy session. "If we can do that, it might neutralize the dark force, or at least diminish its effects." Dr. Zhang suggested using the alien technology they had discovered. "If we can reverse engineer it, we might be able to replicate the conditions that initially opened the rift, and then invert them to close it." Helena considered the risks. "It's a long shot, but it might be our only chance. We'll need to proceed with extreme caution. If we're not careful, we could make things worse." The team set to work, devising a plan to use the alien technology to generate a controlled counter-reaction that would seal the rift. They constructed a prototype device incorporating elements of the alien machinery with their own technology. As they prepared to activate the device, the air was tense with anticipation and fear. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before, something that could either save them or doom them to the same fate as the civilization before them. "Are we ready?" Helena asked, looking around at her team. They nodded, each aware of the gravity of the moment. With a deep breath, Mia initiated the sequence. The device hummed to life, energy arcing across its surface as it began to interact with the fabric of space-time. The ground shook, and the dark force surged around them, as if in protest. But slowly, the vibrations began to subside, and the shadows receded. After tense moments that felt like an eternity, the device quieted down, and the environment stabilized. The crew looked around in disbelief. The dark force had dissipated, and the oppressive atmosphere had lifted. "We did it," Mia whispered, relief washing over her. Helena smiled, proud of her team. "Let's make sure it holds. But for now, good work, everyone. We might have just saved ourselves and learned a crucial lesson about the dangers of tampering with forces beyond our understanding." As they prepared to continue their mission on Titan, the crew felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had not only survived, but had also potentially prevented a cosmic disaster. Titan still held many secrets, but for now, they had achieved a significant victory against the unknown. In the shadowy depths of the underground structure on Titan, the crew of the Pioneer worked feverishly to modify the alien device they hoped would stabilize the space-time rift. The air was thick with tension, each member focused intently on their tasks. Aware that the success of their mission, and perhaps their very survival, depended on the next few hours. "Make sure those conduits are properly aligned," Captain Helena Miles instructed, her voice echoing slightly off the ancient walls. Any misalignment could throw off the entire calibration. Dr. Liu Zhang, his hands steady despite the pressure, adjusted the intricate network of alien circuits. "I think that should do it," he murmured, stepping back to review the holographic blueprints they had created from the deciphered symbols. Engineer Mia Santos was busy integrating their own technology with the alien system. "I'm setting up a feedback loop with our quantum stabilizer. It should help manage the energy flow and prevent any unwanted fluctuations," she explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. The modifications were complex, requiring a delicate balance of their advanced engineering skills and the alien technology's unknown variables. As they worked, the ground beneath them vibrated softly, a reminder of the unstable forces at play. "Everyone, let's double-check all connections and systems," Captain Miles called out. "We can't afford any mistakes." The team complied, each member methodically verifying their part of the setup. The atmosphere was a blend of technical precision and underlying urgency, as they all understood the stakes were higher than any of them had ever faced before. Finally, everything was in place. Dr. Zhang looked around at his team, nodding slowly. "It's time. Let's begin the stabilization sequence." Mia initiated the sequence, her hand trembling slightly as she pressed the activation button. The device hummed to life, its core glowing with a pulsating light that seemed almost alive. Energy levels are holding steady. So far, so good, Mia reported, watching the readouts closely. The crew held their breath as the device continued to operate, the hum growing louder, filling the chamber with its ominous sound. The very fabric of space seemed to warp and shimmer around them, the alien technology straining against the forces it was designed to control. After what felt like an eternity, the vibrations began to subside, and the light from the device stabilized into a steady glow. "We did it," Dr. Zhang said, a cautious relief in his voice. "The rift is stabilizing." The crew let out a collective sigh of relief, but they knew they weren't out of danger yet. The dark force that had plagued their mission was still a threat, one they would have to face before they could leave Titan behind. As the stabilization process continued, the crew prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the dark force. They had theorized that the force was a byproduct of the unstable rift, and stabilizing it might provoke a reaction. They didn't have to wait long. As the device reached its peak operational capacity, a chilling presence filled the chamber. The air grew cold, and shadows seemed to coalesce into a tangible form, swirling around the ancient technology. "It's reacting to the device," Captain Miles said, her voice steady despite the rising fear. "Stay alert, everyone." The shadows formed into a massive, swirling vortex, its center darker than the void of space itself. It pulsed with a malevolent energy, and the temperature dropped further, a supernatural chill that seeped into their bones. "We need to keep the device running," Mia shouted over the howling wind that had begun to whip around them. "It's our only chance to dissipate this thing." Dr. Zhang nodded, adjusting the controls to increase the output. "I'm pushing it to full power." The vortex seemed to scream in rage, the sound piercing their ears as it thrashed against the invisible boundaries of the stabilized rift. The crew stood firm, though they were terrified, knowing that their actions were either a beacon of salvation or a herald of doom. Captain Miles rallied her team, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We can do this. Focus on the device. Keep it stable." The battle raged around them, the dark force unleashing waves of energy that shook the ground and made the air crackle with static. But slowly, as the device continued to emit its stabilizing pulse, the vortex began to weaken, its form becoming less defined, its screams turning into whimpers. After a tense and harrowing struggle, the vortex dissipated completely, leaving behind only the faintest trace of its presence, like a bad dream fading at dawn. "We've neutralized it," Dr. Zhang said, almost in disbelief. "It's gone." The crew was exhausted but elated, having faced and overcome one of the greatest threats imaginable. With the dark force subdued and the rift stabilized, the crew of the Pioneer began their preparations to leave Titan. The moon had been more than just a mission. It had been a test of their courage, their resolve, and their scientific prowess. As they packed up their equipment and prepared the Pioneer for departure, Captain Miles took one last look at the alien chamber. "This place. It's a reminder of what happens when we reach too far, too fast," she mused. Dr. Zhang nodded in agreement. "But it's also a testament to human ingenuity and determination. We faced the unknown, and we prevailed." Mia smiled, her eyes reflecting a mix of pride and relief. "Let's make sure the data we collected goes to good use. We have a lot to learn from what happened here." The journey back to the surface was quiet, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. They had encountered wonders and horrors beyond anything they had imagined, and they knew that their experiences on Titan would haunt them for years to come. As the Pioneer ascended through Titan's atmosphere and set its course back to Earth, the crew felt a bittersweet mixture of sadness and relief. They were leaving behind a moon that had almost claimed their lives, but they were also carrying with them invaluable knowledge and a renewed sense of caution in the face of cosmic forces. Titan will always be a part of us, Captain Miles said as they watched the moon recede into the blackness of space. Let's make sure the world understands both its beauty and its dangers. With that, the Pioneer sped away, leaving Titan behind, a silent guardian of secrets that were now shared with humanity. The crew looked forward to home, to families, and to the future, forever changed by their ordeal, but hopeful for the lessons it would teach the world. The journey back to Earth was a time for reflection and recovery for the crew of the Pioneer. As the spacecraft hurtled through the vastness of space, each member processed the enormity of their experiences on Titan. The isolation of space provided a stark backdrop to their discussions about the mission's implications. "We've touched the surface of something far bigger than us," Captain Helena Miles mused one evening, as they gathered in the common area of the spacecraft. "The technology, the dark force, the vanished civilization, it's a lot to take in." Dr. Liu Zheng, always the scientist, was busy compiling the data for their return. "The information we've gathered could redefine our understanding of physics and space-time. We were lucky to make it back with this knowledge." Engineer Mia Santos, who had spent much of the return trip ensuring that the Pioneer remained in peak condition, added, "Not just lucky. It took every bit of our skill and courage. We need to be very careful about how we use this knowledge. We've seen firsthand what can happen when power is mishandled." As Earth began to loom larger in their viewport, the reality of their return started to sink in. They were coming back not just as explorers, but as bearers of warnings and wonders from the depths of space. Upon re-entry, the world was eager to greet them. News of their discoveries had preceded them, and they were met with a mix of awe and apprehension. The scientific community was abuzz with questions, while the public grappled with the broader existential implications. In the flurry of press conferences and debriefings that followed, Captain Miles spoke eloquently about the mission. "We went looking for answers in the stars and found questions that reach into the very fabric of reality. We must tread carefully, with respect for the forces we seek to understand." The data from Titan sparked a new wave of scientific inquiry. Universities and research institutions around the world clamored to study the artifacts and findings, each eager to unlock the secrets of the alien technology and its potential applications. For the crew, returning to Earth was a bittersweet experience. They had left as pioneers and returned as guardians of powerful knowledge. As they reunited with their families and adjusted to life back on Earth, they kept the lessons of Titan close to their hearts. The impact of the Titan mission resonated far beyond the initial excitement. In the months following their return, the international community established a new protocol for handling extraterrestrial technologies. The United Nations set up a special committee to oversee research and ensure that such powerful technologies were approached with caution and responsibility. Inspired by the data and artifacts recovered from Titan, plans for future missions began to take shape. Dr. Zheng was involved in designing a new series of exploratory probes, specifically tailored to interact safely with unknown alien technologies. "We have an opportunity to explore further, not just to Titan but beyond," Dr. Zheng explained during a scientific symposium. "The next missions will be built on the principles of safety, respect, and a deep commitment to understanding the universe without repeating past mistakes." Mia Santos, now a prominent advocate for ethical engineering in space exploration, worked on developing safer propulsion systems that could one day take humans deeper into the cosmos. "We've seen what's out there," she said at a conference. "Now let's make sure we're ready for it." As for Captain Miles, she became a key figure in space exploration ethics, often speaking about the need for balance between curiosity and caution. "Our next steps into the universe must be taken with open eyes and open hearts. We carry the legacy of Titan with us, not just the dangers, but the wonder and the potential for new beginnings." The stage was set for a new era of space exploration, one informed by the shadows and lights of Titan. The next chapters were yet to be written, but the pioneer crew had ensured that humanity would approach them with wisdom and respect. The universe awaited, vast and full of mysteries, and Earth was now better prepared to meet them.